people could choose to do so many things. But when they choose to be supportive and choose to give a helping hand or take that extra step, it's like it gives you more faith in humanity than what is being presented in society.
Welcome to the Riverside Project podcast. We are mobilizing Houston to empower families and transform generations. We hope these conversations will give you a greater understanding of the issues facing our community and inspire you to find your place along the river. Hello, everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Quana Smith and Danielle Stephen. Quana is the manager of youth programs at the Coalition for the Homeless in Houston and Harris County. With over 13 years of experience working alongside vulnerable youth, Quana brings both frontline knowledge and system-level insight to her role. She's been with the Coalition for the Homeless for more than 3 years, where she leads initiatives that are focused on youth homelessness, prevention, transitional housing solutions, and the strengthening of youth voice. Before joining the Coalition for the Homeless, Quana spent over a decade working directly with youth in the foster care system. She developed a deep understanding of the unique challenges that they face as they're aging out. She's passionate about building bridges between systems, child welfare, housing, education, and employment to ensure that young people don't fall through the cracks. Danielle, who is also with us today, is a passionate young adult who is dedicated to making a difference in the lives of youth and young adults who are experiencing homelessness. With her invaluable lived experience, Danny serves on the Way Home Youth Action Board and the steering committee. Through her advocacy and leadership, she inspires change and strives for positive outcomes, lending her voice to amplify the needs and challenges faced by vulnerable youth. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
There's so much to say about all the wonderful work that you're doing, the both of you, and I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah. Let's start with you, Quana. Tell me a little bit about your role at the Coalition for the Homeless and what brought you into that role, what you do every day.
So as you stated, I am the manager of youth programs, so I have the awesome responsibility of working on the homeless response system as it relates to youth and young adults. And when we say youth and young adults, we're talking about those that are 24 and under, and really in the range of 18 to 24. But we do try to find and navigate solutions for minors at times.
What kind of services do you run there? What does the work look like on a day-to-day level?
So the youth programs in my youth team, we're a team of 3. And like I said, we manage all of the initiatives related to youth and young adult homelessness. So we currently work with projects that were funded through the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program. That is HUD funding that allowed us to really be creative in our community and collaborate with community partners to come up with unique solutions to end or reduce youth and young adult homelessness in our region. So we have specific housing projects that are youth and young adult dedicated. We have a youth and young adult dedicated assessor line to where youth and young adults can go straight to that line and get a homeless assessment. We have a youth and young adult dedicated outreach. And like I said, we have youth and young adult dedicated housing and diversion projects that really work to serve youth and young adult homelessness. We also oversee an initiative that's the Youth Homeless Systems Improvement Grant, or what we call YESI. And that grant really allows us to work on the front end to find solutions and work collaboratively kind of on a programmatic level as to what are the common traits of youth and young adults entering our system and what ways can we quickly work to either exit them out of our system, collaborate more with partners, and work with our Youth Action Board and youth and young adults with lived experience to really empower them to advocate and lend their voice to the changes that we need to make in our homeless response system.
That is awesome. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So many great things that are happening, and there's so many things I want to dive into. Before we do that, Danny, I want to hear a little about your story. How did you get to be connected with Coalition for the Homeless? And tell us a little bit about your just your story and what you want to share.
So I was homeless between the ages of 14 and 18.
Okay.
I was a former foster care youth, and although I didn't really go through the certain dynamics of like aging out and, I guess the chaos that everybody talks about.
Sure.
I was adopted, and like as much as people see that as like an end all be all, you're good. It was a lot farther than that, So
Yeah.
I ended up I wasn't in the best relations with my adopted family. And I asked for help. I asked for support, but I didn't really get much of that. So I ended up just kind of like being like, Jesus, take the wheel, and being like, I'm out of here. I'm gone. Like, and I lived in like an area where I never really understood what poverty or homelessness, and because I lived in a pretty wealthy family, you know, they had everything financially. It was just more of like the emotional neglect and not really having that comfortability as a family. And so I left. I was still in school because I was kind of like my anchor, because there's not much you can do under 8.
Sure. Yeah.
But there was only a couple places that helped me because of the age barriers, and on top of that, having the, you know, parental guardianship and like the legal dynamic that goes into that. It's very complicated. Yeah. So it was like, I'm trying not to get caught by police. Like, oh, you got to go back to foster care. You know, so it was always something. But I'm here, and I did get support. There was only one place that, like, I guess that didn't turn me away, and they're an organization in their COC that offers support with young adults, but youth and young adults between 13 and 25. Okay. So since I was 15, I was going there, and like they, like literally, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be in the position I am now. Like as soon as I turned 18, that had. Like, they were like, okay, we're going to put you in a hotel. We're going to, like, make sure you're not on the streets no more. And then I ended up getting, like, a transitional housing from them. Yeah. And then after that, I went back to them. And I was like, I'm going to be homeless again. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And, like, she, like, the director, she ended up, like, it helps me think about the time that people actually take to help you, you know? Like, a lot of people, they'll just give you a piece of paper and be like, okay, go call these people, go call these people, go call this shelter, go call this housing organization. But she didn't do that. She sat there with me. She, like, helped me apply. She helped me, and, like, now I have housing. And it's just the first time in a long time that I've been consistently stable. Yeah. So.
That's great. It sounds like a difficult journey. But truly, thank you for just being willing to share your story and talk about that with us. I really appreciate it. Quana, you talk about youth and young adult homelessness. Can you share a little bit about we all know what it means, right? Sort of. We assume maybe what it means. Can you share a little about what you mean when you say youth and young adult homelessness? And maybe what are the factors that tend to cause that, or the trends that you see with that issue in our city?
For sure. And let me take a step back to say, I work for the Coalition for the Homeless, as you said. We are the lead agency to the homeless response system. And so as being the lead agency, we don't do the work. We partner and collaborate with over 100 partners that actually are the amazing people that are doing the work, working to get clients housed. My department specifically works with youth and young adults. And like I said, with a YHCP, Youth Homeless Demonstration Program, and the YESI funding, the Youth Homeless Systems Improvement funding, we're able to be creative in the youth space. And so when I talk about youth and young adult homelessness and kind of what we see in our system, it's a wide range. Yeah. Youth and young adults are very transient. A lot of them are not in encampments. They're not in tents. We have a lot of youth that we say are couch surfing. So they're bouncing from place to place. We have some youth, like in Danny's situation, they're getting kicked out of their adoptive homes and they have nowhere to go. They turn 18 and they have nowhere to go, right? Yeah. We have those youth and young adults that age out of foster care that come into our system. We have youth and young adults that are literally homeless. So some of them are sleeping in their cars. We have a small percentage that actually are living in a place not meant, but maybe on the streets. But a lot of them don't stay in those situations for very long. They're in shelters. So they're going to various shelters. They're getting like money to get a quick hotel stay. Some are using Airbnbs and doubling up and bundling up there. So like I said, youth and young adult homelessness is very broad and it looks different specifically for youth and young adults. And so that's what we mean by youth and young adult homelessness. In our programs, like we say, I know diversion is kind of ambiguous language, but really in that diversion portion, it's really our goal is to try to quickly resolve youth and young adult crises to get them out of our system. Some youth we have that have been receiving and bouncing around from homeless services for a while, like Danny, but some just enter a system and could use a quick resolution. So we really work with our providers, and our providers work with youth and young adults to meet with them, actually get to know what their needs, talk to them about the whole dynamics that they may be facing, to see if they can contact the family members to get them back in there, see if they need our housing.
Right.
Also, if they've come from foster care, we're awesome. We have awesome partnership with the Tejano Center, who has the Sunrise Laws, and the Hay Center, who has their new building coming up. And so that is a great resource that helps us navigate those youth that have that history of either being in foster care or aging out, get those resources. And so our programs kind of work to treat those youth on their personal level and really create a plan that's going to work well for them. And the Coalition for the Homeless, and with our providers, Danny mentioned COC, which is our continuum of care. That's basically the region we serve. So we serve Harris County, Montgomery County, Fort Bend County, Conroe, and Pasadena. So any youth and young adults that's needing homeless response services that is at risk. So we have that at-risk population, like they could lose their housing at any moment, right? They're in foster care, not complying with the rules, get kicked out, right? They're at home, not complying with the rules, especially when they turn 18, right?
Yeah.
Get kicked out, right? So that's that kind of, or they're bouncing from place to place. And then one incident like Beryl, we saw last year with Hurricane Beryl, people that were bundled up and doubled up, they were displaced. And so they were like, youth and young adults, you got to find your own place.
Yeah.
And so our providers really work with these youth and young adults to try to address those unique situations and really work on solutions to where they don't stay in our system for a long time if they don't need it. We have more youth that have higher risk, right? And they have higher needs. And so we do intensive case management to work to get those youth and young adults stable. But we understand any system is traumatic, right?
Yeah.
And we want to do the least harm and provide the most amount of resources in the least amount of time to really serve these youth and young adults. But on the backside of that, we see that there's variances, levels of stability when it comes to youth and young adults. Some youth and young adults, like if you're a part of a system, foster care, if you weren't parented, you weren't given the tools, you're out on your own, you don't know how to navigate a bus system, you don't know how to navigate applications, employment. So we have to take our time, and really those youth may need more of an intervention. We have some youth that have rental history, have apartments, know how to do those things. But like with COVID and one incident or one paycheck put them behind, and they're needing some kind of short-term rental assistance. So that's kind of the dynamic. Going back to just the cross-section and the intersectionality of youth and young adults that we see that come from foster care, I pulled the list just this morning. Right now we have 173 youth on our by name list. That is a list of youth and young adults that have come into our system, received an assessment, saying that they were eligible for some kind of homeless response services. And so we kind of look at those youth situations and then refer to the programs as space becomes available. Out of the 173 youth and young adults, we had 25% that said they were in foster care.
Actively in foster care or had been?
Not actively in foster care, but had been. So they've touched the foster care system at one point in time in their life. And so
these are all young adults.
All young adults, all 24 and under. And that ranges. So before we really have the Tejano Center resource that really can serve those youth and young adults that have not aged out, they can be adopted. They could have been in permanent managing conservatorship for a little bit or been PMC to a relative, and they can still be served. It was more so on the 30% line. Now, when we look at youth that have aged out, we have about 25% of our youth and young adults that come into our system that have actually aged out of foster care. And it's usually about the 20 to 25% range. And we work closely with the Hay Center, like we said, to get them over there to receive resources and then work to them if they want. It's all of our services are youth choice, and client driven. And so if a youth wants to receive services through our program, we'll happily work with them. But we also try to kind of leverage our resources and use that collaborative pieces because we don't have enough resources to really serve everybody. So we try to navigate them. We try to navigate them to where the most important and the most appropriate intervention is for them.
We talk a lot about the intersection of all these different social issues, and you mentioned it too. We talk about how foster care is a system. We always think of like child welfare, abuse and neglect, families, and what we don't always realize, and what I learned early on in this journey, was that all of these different social issues intersect at multiple points.
Right.
Upstream of foster care, we see all things like poverty, we see homelessness, we see a lack of education, we see addiction, all of these things, and then they kind of funnel themselves into this foster care system. And then we're trying to stabilize families. We're trying to help kids stay protected. And then we see downstream a lot of the things that happen when either kids don't find long-term stability, like Danny, that you mentioned, family breakdown, even in an adoptive home that we don't always think about. And then a lot of the same social issues we see downstream. We see homelessness come up again. We see incarceration. We see trafficking. Right. We see crisis pregnancy. And then it kind of all just, has this cycle effect. And you mentioned specifically this intersection between the foster care system and homelessness. And so that's an upstream part and it's at the downstream side. Tell me a little bit about what you have seen in terms of not defining that intersection, but what are some of the characteristics of when you see those two issues touch? What is that like for a youth or a young adult? You mentioned they come out of the foster care system and become homeless, but what's underneath that too? Like rent instability or homelessness, there's usually lots of other issues kind of scaffolded underneath. Can you talk about what those things are?
Right. And so it's what our system has learned, and actually what we've learned from our Youth of Action Board and youth and young adults with lived experience that have come with foster care. A lot of it is lack of knowledge of resources. Houston is a big city, right?
Yeah.
The greater Houston area is huge, right? And then we tap on the other counties. A lot of times when you're in this foster care umbrella, you're covered, but you're not really exposed to a lot of worldly things as if you're coming from, quote unquote, a normal family setting where you may know how to access this, or you have a parent that's going to help you. So a lot of these youth don't know what resources there are. They've been under a system with strict rules and strict guidelines. They couldn't go here, B, C without a background check or those things. And then when they're in residential treatment centers, there are just more restrictions. And so they come out of these systems not prepared for the real world, whatever that looks like. And that's basic things. When we're getting youth and young adults over to the Tejano Center, youth had never learned how to fill out an application. Mm-hmm. They needed the hand-holding to have somebody to sit there with them and fill this out.
Yeah. It's like a desire for independence, but an inability to actually be independent.
Be there, exactly. And the desire there is there. And that's what I want people to understand about youth and young adults. People say youth and young adults are lazy, things are there. They have a desire, but they don't have the skill set or the knowledge. Okay. And people do not want to take the time or the patience to really to take those steps to get them from instability to stability. And that's what they need. But going back to what you say is that lack of knowledge, the lack of resources, and then also when you lump other physical health issues, mental health issues, right? Then that creates barriers. In foster care, if you've been on medication and consistently taking that, and then you're out in the real world and now you're not consistently taking your medication, there's some things that come with that. There's some barriers that come with that when you say the cross-sectionality of even foster care and justice system. If you're out on the streets or trying to survive and you're with a group of friends, a lot of times they're living in bandos, place not meant for habitation, abandoned buildings, trying to make it. They could get in trouble. Yeah. So it's really survival crimes and just understanding it's a lack of knowledge and a lack of knowing where to go, because it's very frustrating, as Danny says. If you say, okay, here, Danny, call this number, and you don't know how to advocate for yourself, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to ask for, and you get a lot of no's more than yeses, that could be set youth back and make them not want to be involved, which gives to those stereotypes that they're defiant. They don't want the help. They don't want the resources. They want them, but they also need the assistance. And some of them just don't know how to say, hey, I really need this help. They're going to try to figure it out themselves until they hit rock bottom, or that adult comes along, that caring adult like she had in the agency that says, hey, I'm going to sit here and help you navigate this until you get stability. And that's what we empower with our Youth Homeless Demonstration Program and all of our projects. Not just to just put them in housing. And we have a principle in our homeless response system that says housing first. but it's not housing only.
Right.
You've got to make them a whole person and give them those holistic wraparound resources to really get them the stability. Because if you just give them housing without the tools to equip them, they're not going to be able to succeed and maintain that. And that's the common things we see. It's really the lack of knowledge and and people that can navigate them to get there.
It's the people oftentimes. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, that programs are really, really great and really, really helpful. But if you don't have people who are willing to help you navigate that, Danny, I want to come back to what you said earlier, which was I had a lot of people who were giving me a lot of lists. There are a lot of programs out there that, yes, they serve a purpose and they gave a service to me, which was a piece of paper with a list of shelters or a list of names and then put that back on you to go do it. It was the person who sat down and said, tell me what you're struggling with. What are the things that you really need? And it's that context of what's the need underneath that need that we can actually help you to start building that stability. Tell me more about what that experience was like for you and how that was different in helping you get there.
Because I've been I would like to start to say that there's a big thing with stigma that comes around being supportive with youth young adults who are going through homelessness of any sort. And I think as soon as the front thing on people's minds when you ask them for help is like, oh, would you, why'd you get in this situation? Or you're this how old, or you're 18, why aren't you in school? Why aren't you in college? Why aren't you, there's so much stigma behind it because a lot of these people who make those kind of discernments, and they don't understand. They might have a soft spot for the struggle, but they don't understand what it's like. And that sounds very harsh, but it's very transparent. And to see the people in this kind of work, to be able to take that extra step like they did for me, is a lot. Because I was going there for a long time, and compared to as long as I was going there, I'm always receiving services. I'm hopping in and out of shelters. Like I said, they had helped me multiple times before, but even though I had relapsed back into that level of almost being unstable, they still came through. And that was very different for me. I was expected to just have another list of, go fill this out, call 211, that's kind of what I anticipated. But it was and even the process it took me to get into my apartment, long story short, it was already time for me to transition out of the shelter I was in because I had been there for too long. And even when you become stable straight off the streets, there's still a lot. There's still a lot of mental health. And I dealt with a lot of it, physical health, getting myself acclimated. I was still in high school and all of that. And so I'm still learning. I'm still learning this thing we call adulting, right. 18 is just a number. 21 is just a number. I'm 21 now and I'm still learning. So what they did for me was it was 2 days until I had to leave. And I had no idea what I was going to do. My closest option was to go to a shelter in Conroe. So literally I had quit my job. I transferred all my classes to be online for the next semester because I wouldn't be able to go in person. It would be way too far. And literally the apartment called me after 3 months because it's a very new building. They hadn't even started any process. And they had called me and they had told me oh, we need to sign some paperwork. And I was like, I don't even think I could do this because I'm about to be homeless in 2 days. And they were like, well, you can move in. We don't want you to be homeless. We can help you sign a temporary lease. We got you. And it's that's the extra step. Because it could have very well been hey, well, until your moving date, you can't move in. Yeah. And then on top of that, I had no way. I don't have no license. I don't drive. Then and this is the property manager. She took her big car and she drove all the way down to where I was, picked up all my things for me, drove all the way back. And it's again. And it's people can choose to do so many things. But when they choose to be supportive and choose to give a helping hand or take that extra step, it's it gives you more faith in humanity than what is being presented in society.
And it gives everyone, I think, when somebody steps into a space like that with you, you feel like you're worthy of that.
Exactly.
You believe in me.
Absolutely.
You believe that I can do this. And what a motivator, You mentioned kind of going back and forth, stability, kind of falling back into instability, more stability, kind of falling back into stability. And I think sometimes I think I've been guilty of this also, where like we want a quick fix. We want like people who are vulnerable to find their solution and then for it to stay that way. And that is very much the ideal, but it's not always the reality, right? The mental health challenges don't go away overnight. The physical challenges don't go away overnight. You don't automatically have all of the tools that you need. Can you share a little bit about what shifted toward like, hey, I'm stable now? I mean, as if any of us are stable, right? We're always dealing with challenges.
Right.
But where did you feel like there was a turning point where you kind of were like, in and out of this stability, and then something happened, and then you have a longer trajectory in front of you?
When I got into my apartment, I moved into my apartment in October of 2023.
Okay.
And I guess I never really felt that level of instability until after a year. To be honest, since October of 2024, I can say I've become the best version I've seen of myself because of the level of permanence. Because since it's always a flip on and off switch of stability, you can't get comfortable. It's always a hustle.
What's
it's always
coming?
a quick, like you said, a quick fix. And I got myself into a lot, and especially with the like Miss Quana was saying about the things that we don't know what we should be doing, like I had a job, that wasn't all there was to it. Like I was making money, but I'm underage, or I can't do nothing with this money. I can't get myself an apartment at 17. I can't, and even just knowing how to do it. And so just being able to have that support and that case management and just the understanding of like, hey, you're safe now. You have a place here. You have something that nobody else can take away from you.
Yeah. And
it comes with, and like something I want to piggyback on what Ms. Quana said is like, some people are getting into housing, but they don't know the steps on how to, maintain it, and sometimes that results in them falling back into homelessness, especially when you're so, hooked on the survival methods. And, I was addicted to drugs for a while, and getting into my apartment, that was a bit of a harder pill to swallow. I'm sober now, but
congrats.
That was something that like, okay, I still need to like hustle because this can be taken away from me at any moment. But once I actually came to realize and how much support that came around it, like when I lost my job, I had lost my job a month after I moved in. And that was like here we go again.
Yeah.
That like I felt like that switch was about to go right back on. But they ended up helping me. They ended up finding a solution for me, getting me a job and all of that. And then Miss Quana came along and she was just like, I like your smile. You should be on our YAB. And I was like, you don't even know me. But she and it's been a year, like almost 2 years now. And it's been so amazing to just be able to just see the work, to be in it, and to be able to speak my truth and just listen to other people and to see the efforts. Because sometimes on the outside, as a young adult who's trying to receive the services, it sometimes can feel like they don't care.
Sure.
It can. But there's some barriers that they can't even fix. There's some, like I wish they could have helped me at 17, but at least somebody did.
Yeah.
A part of their system, at least they have pathways to be able to support anybody, even if it's not the greatest thing that they can do, but it's something.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not a shelter, but it's at least a hot meal or a shower. It's something. They're offering a system that can be able to like not really cast people out just because they're of a certain demographic or a certain situation of their life. And that's what I do appreciate. And that's what helped me understand that like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be so tough on these case managers or these, the staff and things like that, because like I said, I tell a lot of, now working with them, I tell a lot of people like, hey, y'all have to give them grace.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care. It's not
We're
that,
all humans just trying to work things out together.
And it took me being a part of it to understand that, because I had the same mindset just like them. I was just man, they don't give no about me. Like, so And so now I really do understand. I really do. I wish, they can share that light with a lot of the young adults that they serve without people feeling like, oh, since you're not giving me what I want, you're not, and like, you're not doing your job. Or it's like, they're just doing the best that they can, because like, this is not their money. This is not, it's the effort that comes behind it. And
it takes a lot of trust, I think, back and forth.
Right.
You're trusting your clients, and clients are having to trust you, and that trust
that rapport.
It doesn't happen overnight. You know, you have to take some time to build that and keep showing up, right?
Right.
Quana, one of the things that we talk a lot about is the power of collaboration. I love the organization with Coalition for the Homeless. It's similar to kind of what we do at the Riverside Project within the foster care system, where we always say we're not always the ones directly serving kids and families. We are building connections, making people, like helping people to know what exists, and then bridging those gaps, building those bridges. And we've seen the beauty of what that can do in a community. How have you seen the power of collaboration and really finding all of these organizations across the city that are doing different things, seeing them work together and then solve a problem together, like homelessness, which is huge, and every city is trying to figure that out, right? What does that look like for you guys, and what have you seen in that space?
I mean, the great thing about the Coalition for the Homeless, like I said, we're the lead agency, but we could not do this. The homeless response system would not be responsive without all of the many partners that are the experts in this field, right? We're so lucky we get to lead and collaborate with them and bring them into this collaborative effort. But just think about it. We don't have it. It will take all of the money, which we don't have. It will take all of the resources, which we don't have. Like I said, the greater Houston area is expansive. If we did not connect with partners that really knew this population, or even our just homeless population as a whole, that have the resources, that have the manpower, that our amazing case managers that are out, our frontline staff that are doing the work, we would not reduce and resolve anything, right? Just like you said, collaborate. If we did not collaborate with youth and young adults with lived experience, I love that this work charges us to work authentically with youth and young adults with lived experience to inform what our system needs. And that's so crucial to this. But like all of the amazing partners, like she mentioned, that we work with, it takes it takes a village to really do some work in our community. If we're all working in silos, we'll never get anything accomplished. And what we've learned, even what I said is a barrier, is a lot of youth don't know what resources out there. And what we found in just doing this work is there is a lot of many great agencies that are already doing this work, that have the resources. It's just being more collaborative and connecting them to our system, and then connecting those youth to them to do that work. And that helps us leverage this funding, right? If we have a limited amount of funding and they have a limited amount of funding, but their expertise is maybe diversion services, if their expertise is really housing, if their expertise is even trafficking, right? We can get those youth that really need those to work with them, and it saves resources for those other youth and young adults that may not fall into those things and may need other resources. And so collaboration is so important. A lot of times in society, it becomes competitive. But I love in this room, there's no competition. The competition is, let's see how much we can do to really work to end homelessness in our community or greatly reduce it, right? And when we do that, when we work together, it's an example for youth and young adults, and like really the future to see like, hey, I really do have a community that cares about this issue, right? And that is really working to resolve it. And that's what we get to do as a homeless response system. It's like gathering them like those toys. It's like hungry, hungry hippo. Like we're all gathering the resources and really just forcing that collaboration. Say, okay, we're going to utilize you guys for X amount of the services. We're going to utilize you guys. And that way we have a wide range to really meet client-centered needs, right? These clients, humans are unique. What I need is totally different from Danny. What you need is totally different from me. And we need those agencies that are that are able to serve your specific needs. So collaboration, I can't say enough about it. And that's what I love. And that's kind of the symbol. It's like whatever you look at it, but it's like hands holding each other. We would not be a coalition. We would not be a homeless response system if we didn't have all of the amazing partners that really do the work and work with these clients, work with these youth and young adults to really get them the stability.
Yeah, we say often, at least in the child welfare space, that no single organization is going to solve this problem.
Right.
There's not one of us that's going to do that. No single individual that's going to say, I have the answer, quick fix, right? We got it. It's going to be every one of us doing what we can do. No one organization can do everything along the river. You can't solve the trafficking issue, right? Homeless organization is doing homelessness and working with youth in a very particular way. Trafficking organizations, but we're all, because the issues are intertwined, we have to also recognize that we and our services need to be intertwined as well, which builds that power of collaboration and that beauty that we see. We can do a lot more together, you know? So yeah, I think in the homelessness kind of ministry or effort, we're seeing the power that a city can have. I have talked to people all over the country, and they talk about what's happening in the homeless sector in Houston specifically. Right. And I think it is because of that collaborative model of people working together. It can change things, right?
For sure.
That's exciting. Well, I wish I could talk to you guys all day. There's so many other things that I want to talk about. We are friends of the organization, and we will continue to keep working together. We hear of clients all the time and people in our space that are needing services. And so we always pick up the phone and we call Quana and find the solution. But during our last couple of minutes, we always do a last five, just to hear a little bit more, less about the system that we're working in and the organizations that we lead, but more about the people that are doing the work. And so I want to ask both of you, not to put Danny on the spot. I don't know if you saw questions or anything, but for each of you, if you as a person had a warning label, what would it say? Like, warning, warning.
That's a really good question.
Quana, do you want to go first?
Yes. I have
to
so
give us
many
an
warning
example,
labels,
it kind of sounds like kind of a confusing question. I know.
Mm-hmm.
So for fun, just personality-wise, I am extremely extroverted, right? So warning, she's going to come off super friendly, life of the party, but she also has a side to her that does not want to be bothered and will shut down in a minute. So that's on a personal level. And then like professional level, warning, I'm going to be amazing, fun, but when it comes down to doing these work, I do not play about the clients that we have. I do not play about humans and people and really making positive change for them. So while I'm being nice, I'm not a pushover. And if you're not doing right by these youth and young adults, I'm going to let you know about it.
Yeah. We need more people like you around. Yeah. Danny, do you have anything?
I think of Kendrick Lamar. Be humble.
Okay.
Because one thing about me, especially in society, everybody's so close-minded. And me, I'm so quick to help people understand that life is so much bigger than the little picture that's going inside your head. Yeah. And I'm always like, every time somebody wants to shoot their shot about something, they're so proud to be like, oh, yeah. Like, I can't really give you a perfect example now, but I'm so quick to be like, but you only think that way because that's what you went through. But think about the bigger picture. Think about something like a million ways as one person can be going through something, which is something completely different than what you might think about.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. Second question. What's a hill you're willing to die on no matter how ridiculous?
So many hills, so many ways to die. Like a fun one. And sorry, because in this world we talk about adultism and try not to put our adultism on our youth system. And I realize I'm not just an adult, I'm an older adult. But I strongly believe 80s babies are the best babies because we got to live through the 90s and the 2000s, and that is some of the best times, the best childhood, and some of the best music to ever come about. So that's a hill I'm going to die on. I always joke and say, something in the water, something shifted after those kids that was born after I say 1984 because that's when I was born, but really 1990.
Yeah. I think it was the internet, potentially. Yeah. We remember life before the internet, and anyone after does not, you know? So it's just like we remember both worlds and can live in both worlds a little bit. Danny, what about you?
Good question, too. I would say, I don't know, just creativity. Okay. Like, one thing about me is, like, I'm expressing myself. And so, like, I do art. I do crocheting. I be making, like, little bracelets. Just creativeness. Like, I love hosting creative workshops. And just, like, I feel like that just, it's like a one size fits all when it comes to any type of issue you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
space to be creative.
That's great. If you could magically grant one resource or tool to every youth aging out of foster care or who is experiencing homelessness, what would it be and why? If you could magically say that here is this one resource or tool that every youth experiencing homelessness.
That's really easy for me. It's just love. If you lead with love, nothing else matters. Nothing that funding can pay for, nothing that grants can pay for, nothing that is beyond a 9 to 5. Oh yeah, I can't help you anymore because I'm off work. Like, just love. When you have true intention, even if you don't know somebody, love leads anything. And that guides your heart. Even doing this work, like, I have a lot of people coming to me about a lot of stuff, and it's like, I never get tired of it, even if it's 2 a.m. Like, hey, I don't get frustrated. I don't get like, yo, y'all bother me outside of hours. Like, because it's just like, that's what it's about.
Showing up. Yep.
For me, I'd give them every youth aging out of foster care, every youth aging out of the system would get their own personal guide when they cross it. And they'll get that guide, whatever life coach, their own personal chauffeur or butler that will chauffeur them and help them navigate those difficult things in life that they didn't learn and kind of help them unlearn some of those things that in the long run, if they don't unlearn it, could prevent them and set them back further. They would get their own guide, like that, their own personal life coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what is needed. Like you said, it's the support. A lot of them need their hand holding to kind of teach them to unlearn some of those things.
Yeah.
Like your trauma is very much you, but it doesn't have to be your future. And you weren't in the system because of what you did. And it's not your fault.
Yep.
And so unlearning those things and teaching them healthy boundaries and all of those things, I think that if they have that guide and like somebody to hold their hand, I needed my hand held to be an adult, right? I'm 40 and I still need my hand held in some things. So I think everybody should have their own personal life coach or guide.
Yep. That's a great one. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Number 4, you get a free unlimited subscription to anything. What are you going to choose?
Ooh.
I'll go first while she's thinking music. Music is my life.
Ooh.
I
Apple
love
Music for life.
anything on. I want all of the
Spotify
subscriptions.
for life.
Exactly. Unlimited subscriptions to all the music, all of the mediums. So, yeah.
What
I'm
about
a
you?
big bag. Food.
Food? Which kind of food?
Ramen.
Ramen for life.
I'm obsessed with ramen.
Do you like the square package ramen or restaurant ramen?
Restaurant,
Or anything?
a Genia. I don't know if you've ever been. So amazing. Killer. Ooh. Like, and then I just went to the Galleria the other day, and they have like this Japanese store, and they have like a whole rack of ramen, and you should have seen my face. I literally got one of every pack. And it was pretty expensive. It was $9.99 a pack, but
Wow.
Ramen for life. That's a new subscription.
so
We gotta get it out there.
amazing.
Love it. Last question. What is one piece of advice you find yourself always giving to youth who are facing homelessness? What's the one thing that you often find yourself saying?
I would say, I always say this, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Because we already live in a world full of judgment. We already live in a world of people expecting things from us that we can't deliver because of our experiences. If we give ourselves grace, we can think more clearly. Instead of just like, oh, well, I got to get to this point now. If I don't get there, then everything's going to be over. You know, and that's what it took for me. Because like I said, even after getting my housing, I was still in survival mode. Like, oh, if I don't get a job now, they're going to kick me out. Like, literally. But I gave myself grace, and I asked for help. And now I can see, like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to focus on your mental health, especially after receiving housing. Like, because people are so much in that survival mode, they don't focus on those things.
Yeah.
So especially when they find that stability, I think that should be one of the biggest things that are on the forefront. Like, yes, money is important. Yes, bills are, a necessity. But it's like, you can't do any of that if this is not right.
That's good. It's wise.
Right. I would say a couple of things I say is cut out the noise. This is a time where you can actually be selfish. Take advantage of the resources. Focus on you. Take this time, receive these services when you're getting, and focus on you. You don't have to worry about what X, Y, and Z is, your friends, like what your family's doing. Take this time to be selfish, to get yourself to where you need to be. because these resources are limited. And you won't be a youth or young adult for forever. So I was like, take advantage, even those exiting out of the system. Take advantage of those educational opportunities. Take that one class, take advantage of the resources that you have being in foster care and aging out. Like, I know it's you want to escape and just get out and be, but there are advantages and programs for you. Take advantage and just consume all the resources. Like, and blot out the noise. Like, it's a lot of noise a lot of times. We're using young adults, and like you said, there's mental health noise, there's friend noise, there's society noise, there's social media noise. Blot out the noise, figure out you, and take advantage of the resources that you have in this limited time you have them.
So good. So good. Well, I wish we had more time, but I want to say thank you for the work that you do every day. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for sharing with others. Thank you for connecting people to resources and relationships that they need to thrive. Danny, thank you for sharing your story. Just a glimpse of your story. That is a brave thing. And it's something to cherish. And I love being able to see the beauty of just all the things that you've worked through and gone through, and your story is still being built. And I'm really excited to see what's ahead for you. Very beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Quana, thanks for taking some time with us. I'm sure we will be calling you this week, probably today, about something. But thank you for being on the journey with us and for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. To those listening, we hope these conversations have inspired you to find your place along the river. And we welcome you to join us in bringing hope and renewal to the city of Houston. If you'd like more information on how to get involved, please visit riversideproject.org and submit a contact form. We'll see you next time.